It's not that being a chassid is necessarily so bad, but there's something so desirable about just being your own man.
I started tasting food that wasn't kosher, like bacon and sausage, and going to McDonald's and stuff like that. They always told me it was so bad, but when you take that bite out of it and it's juicy and tasty, I was like, how can this be bad?
Welcome to WatchMojo.com. I'm your host, Layla, and I'm with Eric Scott, who's the director of Leaving the Fold, his third documentary film about what can happen when a Hasidic Jew is born into this but doesn't really belong. What led you to explore these people's experiences leaving Hasidism?
The stories that I heard about these kids who had left, and they were very powerful and they were very poignant. For example, one kid who, in Jerusalem, who had left, his sister was killed in a suicide bomb, by a suicide bomb in the ultra-Orthodox quarter of Jerusalem. And the next day he got a telephone call from his uncle. And the uncle said, now your parents have 2 dead children, so don't come to the funeral. In other words, he was dead too, and so was the sister. I never realized, as being a secular Jew, what stakes were involved when someone who leaves the fold actually goes through and does it.
What kind of opportunities and challenges await people when they do leave?
For any boy or girl who leaves the Hasidic world, often they don't have any secular education. In Israel, we filmed a teacher who teaches these kids math. You say to a Hasidic kid, I'll meet you on the street parallel to this one. And they'll say, what's parallel? The notions of math, none, past the grade 2 or grade 3 level. So their knowledge, I mean, never mind all the cultural references they know. What's Greece? What's Talking Heads? What's rock and roll? What's all this stuff? What are movies? Kids go into a movie for the first time when they leave the fold and they hear gunshots and they don't know how to react. They've never seen a film before.
How do these young people who reject the Hasidic movement relate to secular Jews?
Being Jewish is a multi-layered thing. It's a religious identity, it's an ethnic identity, it's a cultural identity. One could leave the Hasidic world and still feel ethnically Jewish and still feel culturally Jewish, but not necessarily Hasidic or religious. It means seeking another aspect of their identity or finding a place for themselves in the world that's not necessarily defined by Hasidism and being a Hasid.
Why are women less likely to leave the fold?
There's less immediate surveillance of the guys versus the girls. At the same time, for girls, the window of wanting to leave is much shorter because many Hasidic girls get married around 18. So at 16, you sort of decide that this isn't your world and this is not what you want to be. You've got to move fast because by 18, they're arranging a marriage for you, and by 19, you're pregnant with a kid.
Everyone will learn a lot from this film. Were you making it for anyone in particular?
I made the film because I thought it was an important story to tell for parents of all nationalities, because essentially it's about a relationship between parents and children. Perhaps if parents can see themselves in the pressures that they're exerting upon their own kids to conform to something, well, maybe this film will make them stop for a second and pause and think about where they're going in their own actions towards their own children and the pressures that they bring to bear upon them to choose a path that may be what they want, but not necessarily what their kids choose.
And on a daily basis, I think about the boys, and I pray for them to come back.
There's a very, very small chance that the worldview you've inherited is exactly the way it is.